All right, let's scroll down and look for something else. We got tons of tickets here. I don't know what to pick. I'm just trying to pick. I'm trying not to pick stuff that we've already talked about. Here's this one. Printer not responding. Hello, help desk or hi help desk. My name is Emily Brown and I'm having trouble with my printer. Whenever I try to print a document, the printer does not respond and print job remains in the queue. Right? So we can't print at all. It gets stuck on the local queue on the computer. I have tried restarting both my computer and the printer, but the issue persists. Now you can have a queue that's also stuck on the print server, but let's talk about the fact that we don't know whether the printer itself is local printer or a network printer. If it's a local printer that's plugged in with a USB directly to the computer, obviously make sure that the computer or the printer itself, I'm sorry, is plugged in, there's a connection, that it's online, that the drivers are installed. So you can look at that by simply going to printers and devices. Printers and scanners, I apologize. Look for it in here, whatever it's supposed to be, and it would say whether it's installed, whether it's offline, and it will look something similar to this. If it's a network printer, it would also show up in here, but it would typically have a network name, what is also known a host name, but the host name is also applied to a computer name that's on a domain as well. Now, not to confuse you here, so I'm going to assume this is a network printer because if it's a business, then chances are it's going to be a shared network printer. USB printers are much easier to troubleshoot, but network printers are not so much because there are multi-factors or multi-layers when it comes to making sure that a network printer is working properly. All right, so let's look at this here. I'm going to open up our domain controller and I'm going to open up a command line, and if it's a network printer, you should be able to reach it as long as it's online. So you have to make sure that the connection exists first of all on the network if it's a network printer. Right, so how would you do that? Well, you just need to know the name of the printer or its IP address. So if you type in ping name of the printer, so whatever the name of the printer is, you type it in here, like this. Not literally like this, but let's say the name of the printer is printer 1. You would type in ping printer 1 if that's what it's named for your business. And then you would get a response whether printer 1 exists. And it says here ping request could not find host printer. Please check name and try again. So what is this telling us? Is that it's telling us that the printer 1 doesn't exist on the network. Or also could tell us that the printer 1 is not set up correctly and it's not within DNS. What is DNS? The DNS is a domain name system, and DNS handles the parts of where you don't have to remember the IP address of the printer. You can just remember the name of the printer and use the name to install or add that printer on the user's computer so that way they can access it. So what do I mean by that? The printer can also be added using the IP address. But instead of having to remember what the IP address is, we can just remember that it's named printer 1. Right? In this case, printer 1 is not set up. It's not set up in DNS. It doesn't exist. This is why we're getting this error. It says ping request could not find host printer. Host, you could say here host name, and that's just another way of saying a computer name or a printer name. Otherwise, if you knew what the IP address is for this printer on the network, you can type in whatever that IP address is. For example, this, whatever the IP address is. And you can also add a printer using the IP address as well, but it's typically not done. So if I ping that, it's not going to work because it doesn't exist. So the first step is we have to make sure that this printer is within DNS. This printer name is being routed or forwarded correctly. Again, you're using a printer name instead of having to remember the IP address, so that way you can easily add these printers to users' computers. Let's open up DNS here and see what we have here. We know that we can look up our DNS record. These are called DNS records to make sure that it's being forwarded correctly. But let's see how that looks like. So it's forwarding of the IP address, or forwarding of the name to the IP address. For those reasons, with DNS open, we're going to select forward lookup zones. So we're going to search those zones to see if there is a DNS record for that printer. I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to make sure that I select the correct domain, because you will have multiple domains in here, multiple domains that keep their own records. And in this case, our domain is corp.contoso. And if you select that, you can see it would populate whatever, all of it that it's in there. If this has a lot of stuff, and chances are we'll have thousands and thousands of DNS entries, we can filter it. So right click your domain name, go down to view, select filter, select name starts with, and you can type in, what did we use? Printer1. And we're going to select OK. After this, you have to make sure you right click the folder where it says corp.contoso or whatever your domain is. So right click again, select refresh. And there are no result. What you're getting here, this is something that shows up just as part of the domain. It's not a DNS entry. These are not DNS entries for our host name specifically. So there is nothing there. Now let's look for something that we know there is a DNS entry for. So I'm going to do the same thing. Right click, go to view, select filter, and I'm going to type in client 2. So this time I'm going to type in client 2, which I already did. Sorry that there were sirens playing, so I had to kind of cut that part out. And typed in client 2 and select OK. And you have to select refresh again. So right click the folder, select refresh. You can see there's entry for client 2. And you can see that its IP address is 10.0.0.111. So DNS entry for client 2 is working. However, for our printer, it's not. So this is one of those fictional issues where you have to make sure that this is the first step. You check to see if the DNS record is there, right? So what's the next step? Well, what else could it be? Well, the print server itself. So if I open up the print server, by the way, I have a great video on adding network printers. I'm going to post a link to come up right now. If you don't see it, that means I forgot. So please ask me in the comment to send you the link to the print, adding a network printer, and it gives you the step-by-step instructions. Where is the print server? I wonder if I even have print server installed on this. Nope, I don't have print server installed. All right, well, this is how you do it. This is how you add a print server. If you go to the server manager, I'm going to post a link. Don't worry, I'm not going to let you hang. So I'm going to post a link on how to complete this printer setup for the network and how everything works. But if you have a server installed and you need to add a role, which is a print server, go to the server manager, select a role. Well, it's doing something. It's collecting inventory. Come on, hurry up. There, okay, all right, here we go. Select add a role, select next. We're going to select role-based and feature-based installation. Next. Okay, I'm going to select whatever the default is here. I apologize, this turned into something else. Again, I have the video on how to add this printer and how to create it. So don't worry, check that out. All right, and then I'm going to select print and document services, select add features. Am I missing anything else? Nope, that's it. Select next. Select next again. Select next. And the print server. I'm going to install internet printing as well, so we can have a web access. So that way we can do some troubleshooting like that. Next. All this looks good. Next. And then install. So in the next video we will have it. All right, I apologize for that. This is going to take a while to install, so I'm just going to let it marinate. If this is a network printer Please make sure it is configured correctly. Check DNS, DHCP, which I'm assuming that part of IP address. So he needs a reserved IP address. Please watch that printer video. It's great. So he needs a DNS entry, needs a DHCP reservation, so meaning IP reservation. And what else? And print server settings. Otherwise, if there is an error on the printer itself, for example, out of toner and such, this could place the printer in offline state. So those errors like this, out of toner and such, can also make the printer appear offline, which is offline because it takes it offline until you resolve the error, right? There is an error. All right, complete. Let's pick something else.